the end result, obviously, for these executives is probably, I mean, there's going to be a range, but focused on increasing their focus, their ability to execute, their ability to think through things. Do you have any other like red flags or like areas that you deep dive into that are very helpful for them?
Sleep is a huge one. And the reason that sleep is such a big deal is people think about it as a passive state. And in reality, it's not at all. It's an incredibly active state. It uses a couple of calories at night, and we're consolidating memories, or we're taking short-term memories and converting them to long-term memories. It's a time when we prune memories. So where we get rid of unwanted memories or process things so that it's not as big of a deal. And it's when our glymphatic system does its job and clears out the metabolic waste for the day. So every time we do anything, neurons are firing in our brain and they create exhaust or ash that needs to get cleared out. And if it doesn't get cleared out, we get amyloid beta up or plaques, and which are very highly correlated with dementia. And so sleep is absolutely vital from a long-term perspective. From a short-term perspective, lack of sleep has the equivalent impact on blood sugar level as gaining 30 pounds overnight, up to a 60% decrease or increase in emotional reactivity. So we become more reactive to things instead of being able to think through problems before we say stuff. When we go from sleeping 6 hours to 7.5 hours a night, we increase the amount of learning that we're able to do by 40%. So if you're at a live training, a conference, whatever, and you think about getting 40% more out of it each day just because of how much you sleep, all of a sudden the ROI on that hour and a half of sleep, it's immediately positive. Blood sugar, blood pressure, the most dangerous day of the year up until now was springtime daylight savings time.
Yeah.
Because of the hour reduction in sleep, 24% increase in admissions for cardiac events. The fall time change, 22% decrease in cardiac events because of the extra hour of sleep. So it's a huge force multiplier. And a lot of people, especially driven individuals, they think I'm going to sleep when I'm dead. I don't have time for sleep. They wear lack of sleep as a badge of honor. And for the majority of people, it's not. There's about 40,000 people in the US who are what are called short sleepers, who can actually get by on a short amount of sleep. And to put that in perspective, there's about 40,000 people in whose net worth is over 50 million. So think about how many people you know who have a net worth of 50 million or more. That's about how many people you know who are actually short sleepers. It's just not that many.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues, and I'm going to, speak from a personal standpoint here, is like sometimes if I've had like incredibly busy day, or, there's just a lot in motion on the home front, or some combination thereof, like I'm laying down in bed, staring at the ceiling, and my mind just keeps going and going and going and going. And I'm just like thinking about like all these different scenarios or a case or, whatever it may be. Do you have any advice for, people that fall into that camp or that category, as far as like, well, hey, here's some tips and tricks to help your mind, kind of slow down a little bit and relax and be able to get, that targeted sleep number that you're talking about?
Yeah, there's two big components to sleep. There's sleep pressure, and then there's the threat level in the brain. And so sleep pressure is when you feel tired. And all of us have experienced times when we're just absolutely exhausted and still can't get to sleep or stay asleep. And the reason for that combination is because the brain is in a high threat state. And so when we think about threat, we've got things that we can control and things that we can't control. And so what we want to do is, as much as possible, we want to control the aspects of threat that we have control over. And it goes back to some of the same things, to balance, to vision, to breathing before we go to bed, uh, uh, proprioception, which is body awareness. If the body is comfortable about where it is in space, then it's easier to fall asleep. If it, for whatever reason, isn't comfortable with where it is in relation to the sheets or whatever, it's harder to sleep. And so we can something as simple as rubbing your arms and legs while at your hand so that you know where your body is in space can help considerably for it to be less sensitive to sheets and more prone to going to sleep. Uh, a few things that we can do. The I shy away from tips and tricks, and the reason I shy away from tips and tricks is because a lot of times there are uh, tips and tricks work for a moment, but not long term if we don't know why it worked. And so, uh, a few things that I suggest that people do. Number one is think about having half a tablespoon to a tablespoon of grass fed butter, maybe with some honey on it before bed. And the reason for that is depending on what you ate for dinner and what you had after dinner, it's pretty common for blood sugar to tank at sometime between 12 midnight and 2 a.m. And when the blood sugar tanks, adrenaline kicks in and we wake up. If we have that butter and honey before we go to sleep and have the sustainable fuel through the night, then we don't get that adrenaline spike and we get to sleep better. For getting to sleep, one of the things that we can do that's very, very simple is take a warm shower. And one of the cues there, one of the things that happens early on with sleep is the body starts to cool off. And if we heat the body up and create the situation where it's absolutely going to cool down, it can help the body make the transition from awake to asleep better. Ironically, taking sleeping aids and just things that allow the mind to disassociate, they may allow us to be sedated and unconscious, but they don't let us sleep. And so that's one of the reasons why there's so many issues with sleeping medications, is because we're not getting that restorative sleep that we need. We're just getting knocked out for a while.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. And I really appreciate your answer in that it's important to address the fundamental ongoing issue to properly, diagnose. And, people come to me and like ask for, a quick tip. It's like, well, hang on, we have to take a step back and look at the entirety of the picture. So very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you mind if I expand on that real quick?
Sure. Yeah, please.
Okay. So one of the groups I work with a lot is people with TBIs and post-concussion. And one of the things that happens is, so with pain medication, mood medication, caffeine, uh, and alcohol all leach magnesium from the system. Magnesium is required for sleep. And the most commonly supplemented form of magnesium is magnesium oxide, or, I mean, everyone's familiar with iron oxide, which is iron rust. Magnesium is oxidized magnesium, good laxative, but not necessarily real good for brain health and for sleeping. And so you've got people taking things to be awake, taking things to manage their mood, taking things to be not awake, whether it's self-medicating or other, that are all leaching out that magnesium, and they're not. And so a
Mm.
lot of times people going the tip and trick route will say, well, I'm going to try kava, or I'm going to try ashwagandha. And those can work, but you want to make sure the magnesium's taken care of, and the zinc's taken care of, and the B vitamins are taken care of. Or you're basically fuel additive to a 72 Pinto with bald tires. It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a great example there.